BTK's fatal mistake, the floppy disk that revealed a killer. For 3 decades, a predator stalked the quiet neighborhoods of Wichita, Kansas, preying on unsuspecting victims, evading justice, and taunting authorities with his heinous crimes. He called himself BTK, short for bind, torture, kill, a chilling signature that encapsulated the brutality of his acts. Yet, for all his cunning, Dennis Rader, the man behind the mask, made a fatal mistake. The same need for attention that fueled his twisted crimes ultimately became his undoing. This is the story of how arrogance, technology, and meticulous detective work brought down one of America's most elusive killers. To his family, friends, and community, Dennis Rader was a devoted husband, father, and church leader, a man who seemingly couldn't harm a soul. To his victims and their families, he was a monster who lurked in the shadows, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Between 1974 and 1991, Rader committed 10 confirmed murders, each meticulously planned. His crimes were senselessly cruel. His victims were bound, tortured, and ultimately killed in ways that can't be easily comprehended. Then he disappeared, or so it seemed. Rader lived a double life, seamlessly blending into society while harboring unspeakable secrets. By day, he was a compliance officer with a knack for enforcing minor rules. By night, his twisted fantasies of domination and control came to life in brutal acts of violence. He was a textbook example of a narcissist, deeply craving recognition, a desire that became central to his eventual capture. BTK's campaign of terror began in January 1974 with the murders of 4 members of the Otero family, parents Joseph and Julie, along with their 2 young children, Josephine and Joseph Jr. The crime scene was horrifying, leaving investigators baffled. The perpetrator had left behind no solid leads, and the randomness of the attack sowed fear throughout the Wichita community. Over the next 2 decades, Rader killed 6 more victims, meticulously choosing those he believed were vulnerable. What truly set him apart was his psychological warfare against law enforcement. BTK wrote detailed letters to the police and the media, describing his crimes in excruciating detail and demanding credit for his work. These letters revealed an undeniable arrogance, one that would ultimately lead to his downfall. By 1991, BTK appeared to vanish from the public eye. Rader stopped killing, seemingly satisfied with the infamy he had already achieved. The case went cold, leaving investigators without answers, and Wichita began to heal, albeit with scars that lingered beneath the surface. But Rader wasn't finished. In 2004, after 13 years of silence, he couldn't resist the pull of notoriety any longer. He sent a letter to the media to remind the world of his existence and reassert his dominance over the town that had once lived in fear of his name. This reemergence reignited the investigation, and law enforcement was determined not to let him slip away again. What Dennis Rader didn't realize was that the world had changed since his last spree of crimes. Technology had advanced, offering new tools for investigators. But Rader, still living in his delusions of control, underestimated this evolution. In 2005, Rader sent the police a floppy disk, smugly asking whether it could be traced back to him. He assumed authorities would respond honestly, a hubris that proved fatal. Investigators quickly analyzed the disk's metadata and found a digital breadcrumb, a clue hidden in plain sight. It indicated that the disk had been used at Christ Lutheran Church and was last edited by a user named Dennis. For all his calculated planning and years of evasion, Rader's arrogance and reliance on outdated technology betrayed him. The police now had their lead. Metadata from the floppy disk led authorities to Dennis Rader, a name that perfectly matched their profile. But to secure an arrest, they needed conclusive evidence tying him to the murders. Law enforcement discreetly obtained DNA from Rader's daughter, Carrie. Genetic markers from her DNA confirmed what investigators had long suspected. Dennis Rader was BTK. The puzzle pieces began to fall into place rapidly. Years of unanswered questions suddenly had chilling answers. The man who had lived a life of lies, who had eluded justice for so long, was finally within reach. On February 25, 2005, law enforcement arrested Dennis Rader. It was a surreal moment for the Wichita community. How could someone so ordinary, so unassuming, be the same twisted figure who had terrorized them for decades? Rader's demeanor during his arrest was disturbingly calm, as though he had prepared for this moment. But beneath his composed exterior was a man who had finally been outsmarted, caught by his own arrogance and hubris. During his interrogations, Rader candidly detailed his crimes, recounting them with chilling precision. He described how he meticulously planned each attack, keeping trophies to relive his twisted fantasies. He showed no remorse, and instead seemed to revel in recounting his achievements. It was clear he had always seen himself as the orchestrator of a grand story, one he believed he controlled. But the narrative no longer belonged to him. Through the dedication of law enforcement and a breakthrough in technology, BTK's reign had come to an end. The arrest of Dennis Rader sent shockwaves through the community. During his years of silence, Rader had become a distant memory for many in Wichita, a phantom whose name was whispered in nightmares. Discovering that BTK had been living among them, a man they attended church with, a neighbor who enforced local codes, was incomprehensible. The media seized upon the story, dissecting every detail of Rader's arrest and confession. True crime enthusiasts across the globe were fascinated by how something as seemingly insignificant as a floppy disk could unravel the double life of a killer. The story of the BTK Killer is not just one of heinous crimes, it's a cautionary tale about overconfidence. For decades, Rader believed he was untouchable. He meticulously covered his tracks, severing any link between his public persona and his crimes. But his deep-seated narcissism blinded him to the risks of modern technology. His belief that police would be honest about such a simple question, whether a floppy disk could be traced, was a fatal miscalculation. That small digital mistake cost him everything: his freedom, his family, and the illusion of control he had clung to for so long. The BTK case remains a landmark in the evolution of crime-solving techniques. It highlights the growing importance of technology in forensic investigations, as well as the patience and dedication required to catch elusive offenders. It's also a stark reminder that even the most cunning criminals leave behind evidence, no matter how small. For Wichita, the arrest and sentencing of Dennis Rader provided closure, though the scars of his crimes can never fully heal. For true crime enthusiasts, the BTK story captured a horrifying blend of evil and ego, a dark tale of a man who thought himself invincible, only to be brought down by his own misjudgment. Dennis Rader believed he had masterminded the perfect double life. He was a chameleon, blending in with society by day while living out unspeakable atrocities in the shadows. But in his arrogance, he made one misstep, trusting an outdated floppy disk to remain his secret keeper. That tiny piece of technology became the key to unlocking one of the most notorious mysteries in American crime history. The BTK Killer's story is a chilling reminder that, no matter how careful or calculating, no darkness remains hidden forever. Justice, even when delayed, isn't denied. And for Dennis Rader, justice arrived on the digital wings of his own mistakes. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a like to show your support. Make sure to hit the subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you never miss an update from Evil Unmasked. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Drop a comment below with your theories or suggestions for future topics. Stay curious, stay safe, and we'll see you in the next video.